and welcome to this episode of The Manager's Corner. I'm your host, Jim Cousins. This original HCAM series was created to bring you information and updates from the people who lead our local government. Joining me here today is our DPW Director, John Westerling. John, thanks for making the time to be here with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
And
Happy to be here.
Thank you. And before we actually get to your job here, I'd like to know a little bit about you. So, you're a DPW Director, and I assume there's like a certain type of education or experience that you have to take that position. So can you tell me a little bit about your history, like where you went to school and everything?
I went to the University of Massachusetts, where I received a Bachelor of Science degree in civil engineering.
Okay.
From there, I went to work for the town of Holden in its Department of Public Works. I was an engineer with them for 15 years. Holden's my hometown, where I was born and raised and where I still live today.
Oh, okay.
From there, I went to the town of West Boylston as their superintendent of sewers and drains for 2 years. And then 2 years in, West Boylston created their first ever Department of Public Works and their first ever Director of Public Works. I stepped into that role and I served them for 7 years.
Okay.
And I came here to the town of Hopkinton Valentine's Day of this year. It's still connected to the education side. I'm just about to finish my Master's in Public Administration Studies at Clark University in Worcester.
I see. So when you first heard of the opening in Hopkinton, did you know anything about our community?
I know what the world knows about Hopkinton, and that's that it's the starting point of the Boston Marathon.
Right.
So I was very excited to become part of a community that had such a rich history and heritage, and it's not till I became more interested in the position and when I started here that I learned how much history there is here. It's an absolutely wonderful community. I've met so many fabulous residents, and I'm blessed to work with just a wonderful administration from the top, from the Board of Selectmen, all the way down through the organization. So it's just been a wonderful move for me.
Excellent. So how did you come to fall into this line of public service? Did you know when you were taking your civil engineering courses and stuff that you wanted to be in this line of work?
You know, I didn't know what I would do with my degree. And the position opened up with the town. Again, hometown, it was an easy fit for me. It was very convenient. And I really learned to love the position because in public works, we get to affect people's lives in a positive way every day. Whether it's providing them with clean drinking water, taking their trash away, making sure that the kids can play on parks and fields that are well maintained and mowed, providing safe access to and from work, providing safe access in the winter. Every day we get to impact people's lives in a positive manner.
That is actually very stunning to me because, you know, clearly your passion is in serving a community every single day. And the reason I'm in Access Television is for the exact same reason. You know, I don't make movies that millions of people see, but our little TV station, our town can use it every single day. I say it all the time. That's so interesting. So this is it. This is like what you really like to do.
I absolutely love doing it.
Now, can you give us a quick overview of like what a day in your life on the job is? I know it's got to be a lot of different things.
That's the other exciting aspect of being a Director of Public Works is every day it's something different. There's a new challenge and a new opportunity, whether it's managing a major capital project, planning budgets, overseeing budgets, managing personnel. Every day the phone rings with a new request for information or help from the community. So every day it's something different.
Okay. When you first came to Hopkinton, did you identify anything as a particular area that you really wanted to focus on that you felt was a challenge or something that really needed some attention, or did you find things were, you know, pretty running along?
Coming in, I wasn't sure what the challenges were that I was going to face. However, I did a lot of investigation of the community and of the Department of Public Works before I came, and I wouldn't have come here if I wasn't confident that it was a wonderful community with a strong team behind it, and that's why I came here, because I saw a wonderful future here for me in the Department of Public Works. So there were no preset ideas that I had coming in. Just knew that I had skills that I'd be able to offer the community, and it's worked out very well so far.
I see. Now you have departments under you, like highway and water and sewer. And is there another one, or? I thought there were three. Is water and sewer separate?
Water and sewer, they are under one department manager.
Okay.
But you could consider those two separate departments. They have two totally different responsibilities.
Okay. So how big is your staff?
We have some that are in the union. We have 20 folks that are in the collective bargaining unit. And then we have, I'm going to say 4 or 5 that are outside of the collective bargaining unit. So total, we're about 23 people in the department.
Wow. For a town of 15,000 people that you got to take care of all that infrastructure for. Wow. Now, can you tell us a little bit about what's been happening? I know this summer it was crazy with construction. There was like road stuff going on all the time. And we also want to talk a little bit about the Fruit Street wastewater treatment plant. So what were some of the highlights from this past season?
Some of the highlights, we had over $800,000 worth of road construction and reconstruction that was handled by the highway department, and in particular Mike Manser, who's the highway manager. He managed $800,000 worth of work, and that was some of our own employees and a lot of work from outside vendors. So we had that work. We did nearly $800,000 worth of reconstruction on Elm Street, which included the upgrade of a sewer main, underground, obviously, but then above ground, we reconstructed the roadway, put in a new sidewalk, and in the springtime, we're going to put down a final course of pavement on the road.
So when you say reconstruct, did you take the whole entire road out down to dirt, or did you just like scrape off the top like sometimes they do?
It's a combination of both. Once we installed the sewer line, that came through with a hammer mill process. And what it does is it grinds the existing pavement with the underlying gravel. So it wasn't just a cold plane, which is, I think, what you were referring to. You just scrape off an inch, put back an inch.
Yes.
They put down an entire new road base and an entire new bituminous concrete surface.
You know, it's so great that I have this job because I get to ask all these things that I'm interested about. So,
but before you move on, if I may, Jim, one of the other highlights when Hurricane or Tropical Storm Irene came through, we came very close to losing East Main Street, just this side of Wilson Street. We had, there was a minor pre-existing condition there that we had monies to look at a repair. Hurricane Irene came in and it washed out a significant portion of that lane of travel. So if you drive down East Main Street now, and if you look to your left just before you get to Wilson Street, you'll see a brand new guardrail and a brand new cyclone fence. Behind that, there's a substantial amount of excavation and stabilization work that went into stabilizing that slope.
Wow.
So we worked with a local contractor and our Department of Public Works to restore and stabilize that area. So that was another highlight.
Now, did you say that you had plans for work in that area?
Yes.
So what happens when that happens? For, like, do you have to, do a whole bunch of work that you were planning to figure out really fast and do it that way? Or do you have to do something to keep it going until you can get a chance to fix it?
We had probably a 3-month schedule to work with our engineers. We had to condense that down into less than 3 days because literally the roadway was washed out.
Wow.
There was a drop off at the edge of pavement there that was probably 15 feet straight down.
15?
So what we did was we stabilized the roadway with some sandbags and barrels. The DPW stabilized that area. We worked with Weston and Sampson engineers who came out. They were already on board with us to do the long-term work, but they came out the next day and they had a design turned around the following day. And we worked with Diana and Sons contractors in town who mobilized the following day. So truly 3 months worth of work was condensed down into 2 days.
Wow.
And then they carried out the work. It took them about 3 weeks to stabilize that slope.
Right. So tell me, during those 2 days, how many hours of sleep did you get?
Restful sleep, I got no restful sleep because you're concerned that you're going to lose the roadway, you're concerned that there's going to be an accident, you're concerned that you're going to lose the infrastructure. So we did the best that we could to stabilize it, and thanks to the DPW, Weston and Sampson, the contractor, we were able to to mobilize and take care of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
When something like that hits, you're the guy, you're the manager in charge of the budget. Do you have a line item in your budget that's emergency money for things like that, or how do you pay for that?
It's a very good question. And in this particular case, we have state funding. It's called Chapter 90 funding, and it comes from the Mass DOT. So we had state funding that we could appropriate and put towards that. And that is funding that's appropriated as a lump sum at the annual town meeting. And then it's up to the department manager, the director of public works, in close coordination with the town manager, to determine where to appropriate those funds on smaller jobs. So fortunately, we had the money to put there. It was about a $160,000 repair that happened there.
Wow. Wow, that's really something.
Yeah.
All right, now getting back to my question about the road surface.
Yes.
I see sometimes where they take off an inch and then they lay something down. Other times the road is totally gone and there's a hole there and they start from scratch. What makes you decide to go? And actually, then of course the third one is when they come out with those little sticks and they fill in all the cracks and put sand over it. So. What goes into your determination of which process to pursue?
Before I arrived here, the town of Hopkinton already knew what to put in place to be able to make those determinations. And it's called our pavement management plan. And it's administered through the Department of Public Works, myself and the highway manager, Mike Manser. We work very closely with our engineering firm, which is Fay Spofford Thorndike. And they have a computer program which actually looks at the entire town. And it determines, it's called a pavement condition index. And they determine what the pavement condition index is of all 100 plus miles of roadway in town.
Okay.
Every year, depending upon what we have available from that Chapter 90 funding and our general appropriations at town meeting, we know how much money we have to make our necessary repairs in town. And then from there, we look at where to best spend the money to get the most bang for the buck. And when you see the people out with the wands and they're putting in the liquid bitumen, that actually is, it's spending $1 now to save $1,000 in the future.
Okay.
Because if you can keep the water from getting into the pavement, you've preserved that roadway. So we look at what the pavement condition index is, we look at our available funds, we look at the needs, and then we determine whether or not we're going to either just fill the cracks, if we're going to scrape off the top and put down a thin course of bituminous concrete, or if we're going to fully reconstruct the roadway. And it all depends on what the conditions of that pavement are.
I see. How come after they go by with the wand, right, and they put in that stuff, then they throw, looks like cornmeal, it looks like just a little whoosh, right on there. How come it doesn't all get stuck on the tires? Well,
that's part of the reason that they put down that it's a material that helps, it adheres to the bitumen that's down, and it helps to seal and prevent the tires from sticking. So it's an interface between the tires and that bitumen.
Wow.
Yeah, and when they put it down, it's extremely hot, so it cools very quickly.
Okay, yeah.
So that's why, and ideally cars should stay off it for a couple of minutes, but then after it's cured.
Yeah, wow. All right, well, there's so much more to talk about. We have to take a quick break.
Sure.
So please stay tuned for the second half of our show with our DPW Director, John Westerling.
I'm Dr. Ronald Sen. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, is a progressive respiratory disease that damages the airways in your lungs. COPD includes chronic bronchitis and emphysema. COPD is a major cause of disability and affects more than 12 million people in the U.S. and 64 million worldwide. Most cases result from long-term exposure to irritants such as cigarette smoke, including secondhand smoke, occupational dust and chemicals, and air pollution. Symptoms begin to appear at age 40 and include a persistent cough, shortness of breath, wheezing, or tightness in the chest. The condition affects men and women equally. If you're experiencing any of these symptoms, see your physician to get tested. The disease has no cure, but treatments and lifestyle changes can slow its progress and improve quality of life. The good news is that it's preventable. For more information on COPD, visit the American Lung Association at lungusa.org.
Welcome back to the Manager's Corner. I'm your host, Jim Cousins, and we're talking with John Westerling, our DPW Director. Now, we talked a little bit, actually talked a decent amount about the roads. Can you give us an update on the wastewater treatment plant at Fruit Street?
Again, before I arrived, that construction was proceeding and was coming close to completion. We are 99% complete with the construction. The actual construction was overseen by our town engineer, Dave Del Torio. Did a fabulous job of bringing us up to speed, and we actually saved $1 million on the construction from when it was originally appropriated and approved at town meeting to final construction costs. We saved nearly $1 million.
Right.
So we're waiting for a couple of small punch list items to be completed. We have an operation and maintenance company on board that's ready to start operating and maintaining that. So as soon as those punch list items are complete, we're ready to start accepting sewerage and treating it at the facility.
And what is that gonna do? I know, actually, I know we send some sewers to Westboro, to their big plant. And didn't we have a connection recently to another town?
Milford.
Milford. So is it gonna impact volumes going to either one of those towns?
Ideally, we will be able to direct the majority of the flow from Milford to the Fruit Street site.
Okay.
The Fruit Street site is permitted and designed to handle 100,000 gallons per day. So when the flows that are going to Milford are at that or below, we can direct them to Fruit Street. Because if we're treating it in town, we're not paying the treatment and transport and disposal charges to the town of Milford.
Yeah.
We have, as you stated, that we have those three options, or we will have when Fruit Street's completed. We have those three options. And the Westboro and Fruit Street will be the lowest cost for treatment. So that's our goal, is to divert the most sewage to those two sites.
I see, I see. It's amazing. You have like valves and stuff, you just direct everything where you want it to go.
You're absolutely right. And in this particular case, the plant will talk to a valve out on Saddle Hill Road, and it will open and close that valve to divert the appropriate amount of sewerage to the Fruit Street facility.
Wow. Now, are there going to be new employees who are just dedicated to that plant? How is that going to be staffed?
We have a contract in place. We put out a request for proposals, and we selected Whitewater out of Auburn to operate and maintain the facility. It is a unique facility that our existing personnel are not trained on, only because unless you are working at one of those facilities, you wouldn't have the training for all of the equipment inside and the technology inside.
Sure.
So we thought it best, actually that decision was made before I got here, we thought it was best to bring on someone with the qualifications, because it is a unique technology and it's a unique set of circumstances there. So we have a contractor on board who will be working 4 hours per day through the week, and then on the weekend they'll be monitoring it remotely. So
I see. Oh, okay. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the change of the seasons and what you do to prepare for the oncoming winter. But before that, there's an issue that's near and dear to my heart. So I'm just looking to see if there's any information out there. And that is actually, you don't know this, but I did one of these shows before, and they actually told me online on the show that we actually have to sort our recycling into two: paper and cardboard, and then metals and plastics. And up until that point, I was doing paper and cardboard, metals, and plastic. And I was like, I could put them both together? So that was a big savings.
Yeah.
But it would be really cool if we ever got to just like a one bin thing. And I'd like to know if you're talking about that with Harvey and what it looks like.
What you're referring to is single stream or zero sort recycling, and that's where you can take all of your recyclables, put them into one container. So you don't have to sort them out. You still have to clean the cans, rinse them a little, but you don't have to clean them out. And it works very well in communities that have adopted it. In my hometown, we use that, and it's wonderful because you only need one bin. You don't have to worry about which bin it goes in.
Yep.
And the other benefit is that you don't have to worry about which week it is. Is it a paper week? Is it a container week?
Yep.
And if you miss a week, you don't have to hold it for 2 weeks.
Right, which is a pain.
I understand. So what we did, when I came on board, the contract for curbside collection of municipal solid waste and recyclables was due to expire. There was an opportunity to extend the existing contract, but we saw an opportunity there to save the community some money. So we re-advertised to 3 different waste haulers. Okay. And E.L. Harvey was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. And actually, they've done a fabulous job for this community. There are people within the administration of E.L. Harvey that live in town. They're a neighbor. They're very supportive. They're a property owner. So I'm very happy that we were able to continue that relationship. And what it did was it saved the town $125,000 a year on that collection cost. And in that contract, we ensured that there's a provision that if the town ever wishes to, in the future, go with single-stream recycling, they will accommodate it.
Oh.
And the other exciting part about it is that in order for single-stream recycling to happen, you have to have those toters, the large toters.
On wheels?
On wheels.
Yeah.
And the only way for that to be profitable for the waste hauler is that if that can be automated. So that's why you need those toters, that they can come along, the arm picks it up, dumps it.
What town? There's a town right next to us that I see that all the time. They drive down the road with those robotic arms and just whoosh, they keep dumping it into their truck. I think it's Milford. But anyway, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So we made sure that in the contract that there was a provision to have that happen. And E.L. Harvey offered, and the offer's on the table still for the entire 5-year term of the contract, to provide one of those carts to each and every residence in town. The other thing they've offered is if the town goes, if we go with the robotic arms and the automation, they also have to do that for the municipal solid waste, the trash.
Oh, okay.
They've offered to provide a cart to every residence for their trash.
Really?
So there's a sensitivity in the administration that we don't want to go and demand that people use these carts. But the opportunity is there if in the future, if there's a desire and a will, we can do that at no cost to the town, and it would be a large convenience to the residents.
So how do you determine that if the town wills that or would like that? Are you going to survey them or do copies or something?
There's many ways to do that, and the town manager, Norman Khumalo, is looking at a town-wide survey, and that's a possibility of having a question on there of would you like to see single-stream recycling?
I see.
So it really takes a groundswell and a will of the community.
Yeah.
Again, there's a sensitivity that we don't want to be telling people how they should dispose of their trash, but if the desire is there, the opportunity is there with the waste hauler.
Okay. Oh, I think that's very exciting.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got a few minutes left. So, John, tell me, we're going into winter, which I'm sure is got to be, a nightmare of unanticipated events and blizzards and frozen things and stuff like that. So can you tell me a little bit about what it's like in your job as you're looking at these change of seasons coming?
Before I started with the town of Hopkinton, it was my pledge that it wouldn't snow anymore last winter. And in fact, when I started, we had no substantial snowstorms. I can't continue that promise. However, we have been so very fortunate. This is December 1st, and we haven't had the weather that you typically see at this time of year. We haven't had a substantial snowfall. We had a few inches back in October. But the temperatures have been very favorable. So what we're able to do, we lost 7 weeks this year to both Tropical Storm Irene and that snowstorm with the power outages and the trees down. So we're able to now take advantage of the good weather and catch up on all of our road work. Our highway manager, Mike Manser, and our water sewer manager, Eric Carty, doing a great job at finishing up all the work that has to be done in the roadways. But as we look ahead, we make sure that our vehicles are ready. We make sure that we've got plenty of sand and salt. We make sure that that there are no problems on the roads that are going to cause problems for our plows. So we're planning. We believe that we are ready. So when Mother Nature's ready, we'll be ready.
Wow. And now now that's an interesting thing. So is your budget, you have no idea how many snow plowing days you're going to have. Right. So how do you think about that?
The town of Hopkinton takes advantage of Mass General Law, which allows towns to underfund its snow and ice budgets.
Okay.
And most every community in the state does that. You underfund the budget, and then what that allows you to do is to spend monies in an emergency situation with the Appropriations Committee's approval.
Oh.
So we put in every year for the same amount.
Yeah.
We do as much as we can, the best we can with what we have.
Yeah.
And then when that money runs out, as it has at this point, we go to the Appropriations Committee and request additional funding.
Okay. All right. Now, I want to pivot because we're almost out of time. And I remember at last town meeting, there was a very nice presentation about the possibility of a new DPW building. So could you give us just a quick recap of that and let us know what's next on the agenda?
You bet. The town meeting approved the monies for the design of a DPW facility located at the Wood Street site. We had an evaluation done by Weston and Sampson engineers, and they determined that the site was large enough.
Okay.
So the monies were appropriated, but because it's a debt exclusion funding source, we need 2 votes, one at town meeting, which we received,
Yep.
and the next one happens at the next town ballot election. We haven't had one since our town meeting, so at the next one, the residents have a chance to come forward and appropriate those funds so that we can design a building, and then we bring back the design with a request for future appropriations to build it.
I see.
And that's one of our biggest challenges, frankly, is to have a facility that's large enough for all of our equipment, has the resources and the facilities for the people that are working there, and would actually centralize all departments under one roof. So we're looking forward to that.
I see. And that next ballot is a simple majority?
That's correct.
Okay. And so what do you, any idea of what year that might be done?
We are hoping that we will have the ballot election for the design monies next year. That's the next foreseeable election.
Yep.
And then we would take it to a future town meeting. So under ideal circumstances, 2014, we would construct a new building.
Okay. Well, John, thank you very much for coming on the show and giving us this window into your job and what you do for us. And thank you for the work that you do for our community.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
You're welcome. And thank you very much for joining us on the show. I hope that you tune in next time for another episode of the Manager's Corner. We will talk to another person who helps to run our local town government. I'm Jim Cousins. Take care.